case you don't know. So in case you know, the case is low. Even if you get a chance to take a stand and dance. You gotta remember the game is so advanced. 4 clicks from the mallet, it sounds like hood. Realize you in the courtroom dancing with wolves. If I'm not my best, I won't rest till I am. I grind it out in the 10, eat my rhymes out of can. Say no more from a man I can. I won't stop till the full course, mill in my hand. So listen, it's better than I'm better than before. Like a few G's, you gon' know the scope, bro. Do I need to say any more, bitch? Yup. Do I need to say any more, bitch? Say no more, folks.
Remind me of Uncle Donnie Club, too. Welcome back to the Doug Stewart Show. The number to the show is 404-382-0338. You can also email me at doug@thedougstewartshow.com. As I mentioned in the last segment, and we got the Ball Penis Award coming up a little bit later in about 30 minutes. As a matter of fact, stay tuned for that. Your nominees, before I get to this story, your nominees are Donald Trump, for just being Donald Trump. James Dolan, owner of the New York Knicks. Carlos Santana, dissing Beyonce. Roy Jones Jr., which we'll talk about here in a second. Uncle Donnie, not the real Uncle Donnie, the bootlegging Uncle Donnie in the chat room. Tony Gonzalez, former Atlanta Falcon, saying that black players should still go to the White House even though Donald Trump doesn't give one rat's ass about them. Angry Black Man Stewie. We misspelled that word, too. We misspelled Stewie. So Angry Black Man Stewie for just saying angry black man in the chat room type things. And lastly, the GOP, the Grand Old Party, for not even trying to investigate all of these Donald Trump allegations. So those are your nominations. Go to the Doug Stewart Show Facebook chat group and cast your vote. We'll give you the winner/loser at the bottom of the hour. So, looking at the story from Dan Raphael, he's kind of like the number one boxing guy on the Puppet Factory, man. He writes, for whatever reason, man, Roy Jones Jr., when a story starts out for whatever reason, it's not good. He goes on to say, for whatever reason, Roy Jones Jr. and Bobby Gunn will fight in a scheduled 12-round cruiserweight bout this Friday night, which is tonight. It's at the Chase Center in Wilmington, Delaware, Friday night. Listen to this. It's on pay-per-view. For $29. Are you kidding me? I would bet, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show, and maybe not, and clearly not. It can't be because, you know, people that put on pay-per-view fights, it's an investment. I mean, clearly, if they're selling this fight as a pay-per-view, they know, in fact, that people will buy it. How many people, though, is another question. Like, I would find it hard to believe that there are 50 people in the world that would pay $30 to watch Roy Jones Jr. fight on a Friday night in Wilmington, Delaware. $29.99 to buy the pay-per-view card. And so it's a card. So it's more people on it. Maybe there's some other boxers worth seeing, some up-and-comers or whatever. But, I mean, the main event is Roy Jones Jr. and some guy named Bobby Gunn. Some guy. I don't know who the F Bobby Gunn is. Yeah, Roy Jones is fighting some dude named Bobby Gunn. It's dubbed Skill versus Will. What? Skill versus Will. So I guess Will is the Roy Jones part, and the Bobby Gunn guy is the skill. What types of skills does he have? Roy Jones Jr. turned 48 last month. Roy Jones Jr. turned 48 last month and has been on the long, slow decline to his ending of his career for more than a decade. Here's a quote from Roy Jones Jr. Lord have mercy. And I'll tell you, more of the background here in a second, man. He says, I'm in very good shape for the first time in 4 or 5 years. You're acknowledging that you've been fighting for the last 5 years out of shape, Roy? You saying that out loud? I feel better than I've felt in a long time. I know I have my hands full, and I know my hands are ready for battle. I know this man is coming to bring it, but that's what we live for. That's what we love. Oh, man. He is coming off a torn right bicep suffered in an August 13 decision win against journeyman Rodney Moore. So Roy just tore his bicep in August of last year. After that fight in front of his hometown fans in Pensacola, Florida, Jones said he considered retirement and was better way and what better way than to see off his boxing career than in front of his people in Pensacola, Florida. That's part of what I'm about to tell you here in a second, why I love Roy Jones so much. This fight is going to pit Roy Jones Jr. against 43-year-old Gunn, who is 21-6-1 with 18 KOs, born in Canada, but fights out of Hackensack, New Jersey. He claims to be 72-0 with 72 knockouts in bare-knuckle fighting. There's actually a sport called bare-knuckle fighting. I thought that was just a playful term you just threw around, the way they used to fight back in the early 1900s. There's actually a sport where they keep track of bare-knuckle fights. This guy, Gunn, is 72-0 in bare-knuckle fighting? Huh? And in real traditional boxing, he's 21-6-1 fighting against Roy Jones Jr. I'm tired of this, man. This really hurts. This really hurts, man. Listen, man, my favorite boxers of all times, man, is I'd probably say, if I had to rank them, my favorite boxer of all time to watch box, spend money on. You're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. My favorite boxer of all times is Iron Mike Tyson. I mean, that's it. Mike Tyson is my favorite boxer of all time because the thing about Tyson, man, is you knew there was a very good chance you were going to see somebody get knocked the fuck out. I mean, let's be honest, man. That's the animalistic side of us, man. We love to see, guys get knocked out. We love to see that. That's what we love. I mean, I'm keeping it real. I mean, that's what I want to see when I watch a boxing match. I want to see somebody get knocked the F out. And in watching Mike Tyson, man, there was a high chance of that happening. The first 25 fights that he had, like Tyson went something crazy like, knocked out 24 or 25 opponents, something real ridiculous. So that was always just a big draw. That was a big thing whenever Tyson fought. But coming right behind Mike Tyson, man, was Roy Jones Jr., Pensacola's finest, Roy Jones Jr. Oh, my gosh, man. It was an event. And I lived in Pensacola when Roy was, still the ish. I lived in Pensacola, man. I actually met him a couple of times. He actually came into my store in the mall one time, and then somebody, one of the brothers I used to kick it with, actually knew him and grew up with him and introduced me to Roy at this was the little spot that they had in Pensacola. They had this little like Atlantic City type place, Seville Quarters, called Seville Quarters. My Pensacola people know what I'm talking about. So I actually met Roy at this Seville Quarters and at this nightclub, and actually hung out like in this little section or whatever, man. Showed much love. And so before I even met him, though, I was a Roy Jones Jr. fan. This cat was just electric, man. The way he used to knock fools out was crazy. He had this unorthodox style, man, and it was just a big event. I remember when he fought James Toney. That was during the time I lived in Pensacola. It was a big-ass fight party, man, that I attended of somebody that, once again, went to school with Roy Jones Jr. and went to this fight party, man. There was probably 100 people there, and he beat the living dog dude out of James Toney. I think he knocked out James Toney. But at the time, this was going to be the biggest competition that Roy had fought when he fought James Toney. And, I mean, he made James Toney look silly, and he did that for many, many, many years until he fought that son of a bitch, Antonio Tarver. And everything went downhill ever since he fought Antonio Tarver, man. And y'all know the story. You listen to the Doug Stewart Show. You know the story. Me and my brother were at that fight. We were at that fight in Vegas, man, when Roy got knocked out cold. He got knocked in the next week by stinking ass Antonio Tarver. I still hate Antonio Tarver till this day. And yeah, Antonio Tarver never did anything to me, man. He never did anything to me, man. But he knocked out one of my favorite athletes of all time. Knocked him silly. And Roy ain't been the same since. Roy Jones ain't been the same since, man. And it's crazy. Somebody said it in the chat room, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. Somebody said in the chat room, it's crazy how Roy continues to get beat up on for like the last 10 years. He's 48 years old. For the last 10 years, it's been bad for Roy Jones Jr. I need to look at his record. But it's crazy how he gets beat up on a consistent basis, but still is kind of coherent when he's commentating on these fights. Sad, man. A guy that was that great, and people today, young people of today that don't remember Roy in his prime, man, they laugh and they joke at him and they talk about how they're not paying this money for pay-per-view like I've been doing. And I'm the biggest Roy fan out there. But these young people today, they have no clue of how dynamic a boxer Roy Jones Jr. was. And it was a pleasure to watch him fight. But since Antonio Tarver, man, it's just, he's shot. Like Roy right now, since the Tarver fight, is the equivalent to how I feel about Tony Romo right now. Tony Romo is shot. Like, I believe anytime Tony Romo plays, an extended period of snaps in a game, he will get hurt. That's how fragile his body is right now. And ever since Roy got knocked out by Tarver, man, he's just a shell of himself. Man, the fastest hands you will ever see. I mean, the fastest hands you'll ever see, man. Roy used to, drop his hands and throw a punch from just nowhere, and the guy wouldn't even see it coming. Like, he had all of this unorthodox, crazy angles he used to throw punches from, man, and the dudes that he hit on the receiving end of those punches, they didn't even see it coming. It was so fast. And the man is just a shell of himself. I'll say this, man. I'm going to move on and go in and read some of these messages in the chat room on Spreaker.com. Stewies, please pray for Roy Jones Jr. I hate this. I hate this, man, and it's not going to get any better. And right now it does seem like he has all his faculties, man. It does seem like that, but this can't be good. Roy's 10-year past his prime. Let me look at it and see when that, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. Let me see when that fight was that he had with Tarver where he got knocked out. What year was that? I'm going to guess that was